Telang Mofokeng. Dr. Mofokeng just delivered her final report to the Human Rights Council, focused on health as an enabler of human dignity, and we are very pleased to have her at the briefing here today. We will begin with opening remarks by the Special Rapporteur and then take questions. Dr. Mofokeng, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And indeed, this is my last press briefing as the Special Rapporteur on the right of everyone to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome this opportunity to speak to you today, especially after I've just presented my report entitled The Right to Health as an Enabler of Dignity to the 62nd session of the Human Rights Council. Dignity is inherent and equal worth of every human being. It is not conditional on any status or achievement, but grounded in the fact that we are all human. It's very important that this also includes our shared capacity to suffer, to depend on the empathy of others, and to develop one's personality and life's plans. I have further asserted in my report that human rights systems are actually anchored in this very understanding of dignity. When I was appointed as a Special Rapporteur in 2020, I set out in my strategic priorities of work that I would be adopting anti-racist and anti-colonial analysis of the right to health and how we interrogate the systems of power, asymmetries, the attainment of the right to health between and also within countries. I identified dignity as a pivotal principle permeating the right to health. And across my thematic work on sexual and reproductive health rights, harm reduction, racism as a structural determinant of health, digital technology, food and nutrition, mental health, as well as the rights of health and care workers as defenders of human rights, I have identified recurring indignities including stigma, discrimination, criminalization, social exclusion as barriers to underlying determinants of health, and often beyond interpersonal violence, structural and systemic violence as root causes of avoidable morbidity, mortality, and human suffering. During this tenure, I also completed 5 country visits to the Maldives, Thailand, Chile, Luxembourg, and Costa Rica. And in all these countries, there were successes and areas of good practices that I've reported in my reports to the Council on these country visits. And once again, wish to thank the member states well in their endeavors to ensure the right to health is realized for all of their citizens. As part of my remarks today, I just wanted to give some ways in which I think may be impactful and measurable in how we can operationalize dignity-based approaches, and remind us that equality and non-discrimination are actually immediate obligations on member states. So in their endeavor to make sure that they protect, fulfill, and realize the right to health, there are immediate and expeditious ways in which they can ensure that they truly leave no one behind. One of the ways is to strengthen the conditions of dignified living by guaranteeing access to adequate housing, food and water, safe working conditions, social protection and education, and ensuring that health services are culturally safe, appropriate, and accessible to those most affected by structural disadvantage. States must protect the dignity and rights of health and care workers, including through safe working conditions, and that health and care workers must participate in policy making, oversight, and accountability mechanisms that should include changes and updates in medical education, training, and pedagogy that actually includes human rights focus. There must be an investment in health literacy as well, community education, so that communities can actually defend their right to health. You cannot defend rights you don't know you have. We must also, like other countries have shown in 14 countries at the regional level, that community-based mechanisms to establish, to monitor, and respond to stigma and discrimination have worked, and that many populations are able to access dignified services because major structural barriers limiting access to services for these marginalized and key populations have been addressed through consequential and meaningful participations of these communities that are mostly affected. Community-led mechanisms and models of care have sought to redesign services around relationship-based and culturally grounded approaches, including approaches to treat service users as partners rather than just patients, and reversing the paternalistic approach and the dynamics of medicine. It is important for accountability that member states continue to be accessible, transparent, and ensure that they do not fall into the trap of shrinking civil society space, that they continue to resource feminist and community-based initiatives that are there really for the purpose of oversight. It is important that national human rights institutions have a mandate that is also funded. This is important to prevent, to mitigate, and to provide redress for health and dignity-related violations by states and also by non-state actors, including, of course, in healthcare settings, but also in governance of the private sector. And in the context of pandemics, climate-related disasters, conflict, protracted humanitarian emergencies, and the genocide we continue to chronicle and witness, I underscore that a rights-based health approach must meet imminent needs while building resilience, inclusive systems with sustainable communities as an urgent outcome. A dignity lens helps to ensure that emergency responses do not in themselves entrench discrimination, coercion, or lead to further social, economic exclusion, and that recovery and rebuilding investments strengthen long-term equity and must be designed with and by the people who are affected. My mandate continues to bear witness and receive testimonies of how cruel that this world is, but also testimonies on how this mandate and its interventions have led to more people living dignified lives. It has been important to me too, as a person who embodies many characteristics that lead to prejudice and discrimination, stigmatization and criminalization. I'm a black woman from South Africa who herself was a childhood survivor of a brutal apartheid regime and continues to live under the crushing weight of racism and its legacies of colonialism and imperialist violence, showing itself in very personal terms. It's important to bring this perspective to the work of the right to health because they directly impact human dignity and life and non-discrimination and equality. The work of the mandate has been 6 years long, but this tenure was and remains life-saving work for me too. And it's my hope that in doing this work with diligence and focus and centering the people who are often at the margins, that we recognize what true solidarity can look like. And even in the face of fierce personal and targeted attacks and bioterrorism, incitement of violence against me as a person and a mandate holder, spilling over and leading into domestic spaces such as professional harassment I'm currently experiencing, and intimidation, both in real life and online spaces. I want to recognize the solidarity of my own colleagues and my own peers and comrades. It can never replace the duty of care of such global institutions such as the United Nations, that despite the seriousness of the implications of these sustained attacks, I do want to thank all of the communities who have held the ground solid as it was being shaken beneath me. I remain able and empowered, even in the silent moments, to choose the moments and the arena of my battles. And I have battled in these last 6 years. It has been an honor of a lifetime to serve you as the UN Special Rapporteur on the right of everyone to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. This has been a deeply personal task. And through this mandate of the right to health, through using the methods of work afforded to me by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, I have used those tools and the methods of work to recenter the margins. I continue to be unreasonably hopeful that the realization of the right to health of everyone everywhere can be realized. I remain in unwavering deep solidarity with all healthcare workers and health providers in the world, the oath takers, The ones who stay knowing that abduction, harassment, detention, torture, and often death awaits them. The practice of medicine is not a crime. The right to health enables all of us to create, to be, to live, to thrive, and to have joy, and to not merely just survive. And that is my wish for all of us for a future, that we can have a different connection as humanity that is not based on collective traumas that we have experienced together, but on a cosmovision, a co-creation of a world that is just. And the extent to which sustainable human development, peace, and the security agenda of the UN can be achieved must be measured and understood by the extent to which human rights are protected, promoted, and fulfilled by all member states. And as I end, I want to make a call for the release of all healthcare workers around the world who remain in detention, in abduction, who are harassed and intimidated and tortured every day for doing the work, for being the oath takers who never leave their patients. You should never have to be that brave. And it's my hope that as we continue in that advocacy, that many of you can go back to doing the job that you love, which is giving dignity to the people who are most vulnerable, your patients. And of course, I will leave this podium in a few minutes. And the work and the tasks ahead are very, very broad for my narrow shoulders. And I wish that my successor all the best in their endeavor to carry on the very honorable work of taking care and listening to the billions of people who continue to have trust in this mandate and in this institution of the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Special Rapporteur for those very moving and inspirational words also. We will now take questions. I think we have some people online. Just in case there